Welcome to the show. This is Dr. Jason Dean, and I'm running a little behind, not because of Edwin, but because I have 4 different softwares and they all don't like to play what they're supposed to play. So, this is Revolution Network. I am Dr. Jason Dean. This is Edwin Dearborn. And
Hello.
let me confirm that this is live because usually viewers would be on by now. And there we go. It is live. Yes, we are. And so Edwin has not been on the show in a long time, not because I didn't want him on, but because we both lead very, very busy lives. And Edwin, the people are rolling in because the media wants you to think there's chaos in the streets. There's people celebrating, that's for sure, but the chaos hasn't gotten here yet. But how are you doing with all this stuff? You're one of my friends who is, other than me, probably the most calm and stable at this point while people are freaking out. How have you been during this whole chaotic, what would you call it, cycle?
I've actually been probably very level-headed. As you know me, I don't get into all the hyperbole, the panic, the emotions, for a lot of reasons. Number one, I've just eliminated any of those emotional buttons from my own life to allow someone to control or try to suppress or oppress me. And that's really what the whole game is about with this whole news cycle, is that it's like the media has become like crack cocaine. We've become addicted to it. And if it doesn't give us the high that we want, then we get all upset. It's almost like we OD, or we start to have delirium tremens from the alcohol rush we didn't get.
Totally.
And I don't have television. I don't have cable. I mean, I've got a screen, but I watch more YouTube than anything. Once in a while I get an occasional movie in, a free movie, or I buy it on YouTube, but I'm studying so much. So I don't get caught up into the cult of personality of what this guy said or what that guy said or what MSNBC said, or because I know that it's all prefabricated bullshit. Excuse my French.
You're allowed to swear. It's okay.
Okay.
We're prime time.
Okay. Cool.
No, it's totally true. And so that's one of the things that I've noticed. And I know you have a brand and you have a business and a personality out there people follow from a business standpoint, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the biggest thing I've noticed is no matter how much I post, no matter how calm I tell everyone I am right now, with this whole situation, no matter what happens, people are panicking. And I tried to tell them the other night, and you can kind of expand on this. I tried to tell them last week, actually. I have found through self-development work, through training, through reading, and even through education, both myself and my wife are physicians, and we were taught very early on, being in practice, especially being a business owner, you have to, as a leader, you have to stay calm in the really troubled waters because you have people around you that are looking for that calmness. And so I have found that when I start planning, when I start strategizing, I get my whiteboard out, I get my notebook out.
Yep.
I even write down the worst case scenario. Like, if these assholes try to take us to a FEMA camp, what happens? What goes down? And writing that out, and I will tell you, no matter what scenario we write out, we come to a solution, written solution, where we're comfortable and we're at peace. I mean, what do you expand on that for me?
Well, let me, a couple layers here. So you brought up about writing down in a notebook, right? Here's my notebook.
Yep.
I keep it by my computer. I write things down, and then if I want to, I translate it on a Google Doc. I have an annual strategy. I have a weekly strategy. I have a daily strategy, a battle plan for the year. Every December, I rewrite or design, if you will, or modify the plan that I have for the year of how I'm going to grow myself, my business, my income, my everything. Then I write a weekly battle plan every Sunday night for the rest of the week. And then every morning I wake up and I write a daily battle plan that will forward my weekly battle plan, and my weekly battle plan forwards my annual plan. I believe that preparation and organization is the solution for anxiety. People that have anxiety about something, there's a couple of things that I notice. They're not well studied about what they're anxious about, so their knowledge about whatever they're anxious about is very low.
Yep.
Number two, they don't have an alternative plan. And in the military, they call it a contingency plan. When, they landed at D-Day on Normandy Beach, they had 4 contingency plans. Meaning, if this plan doesn't work, then we go to plan B. If plan B doesn't go to work, we go to plan C. If plan C doesn't, see, I have a plan. If the shit hits the fan, I've got a plan and a place to go. I could bug out food, ammo, weapons, and a place to go, tent, the whole thing. I could literally throw everything in my truck in 5 minutes or less, and I have an exact location to go. So would it be fun? No. Am I looking forward to that? No, but I have a plan. So, that's true of my business, is I have a plan. True of my finances, I have a plan. So the first thing that's going to settle you down is, why don't you start to understand the situation, and why don't you have a contingency plan? I said on Facebook last month, I asked, because I have a lot of friends that are Trump fans, I said, if your candidate doesn't win, what's your plan?
Right.
And I got all these comments like, he's going to win. He's got to win. I'm like, I'm not arguing with you. What I'm asking you,
you're asking a question.
I'm not refuting what your viewpoint. Just take some CalMag, chill the F out, just listen to the question. What's your plan if see, I've got a plan. Now, number two, what are they freaking out about? Oh, my taxes are going to go up. Form a corporation. Do you know how to do that? They're going to take my guns. He can't just do that. He's got to pass a bill. That's got to go through the House. We just earned 20 seats, Republicans, in the House.
Yep.
We have majority of the Congress. He ain't getting it through.
Yep.
Okay. Well, he's going to make us wear masks. Yeah. Enforce it to 350 million people. Good luck.
It's so true. I wish more people took on this mentality that you and I take on.
But Jason, the reason is they don't understand the Constitution.
Right.
They don't understand the Bill of Rights. See, so there's this giant ignorance, and then when you point it out, they're like, "Oh, he can't." But what if he writes an executive order? Well, there's a bunch of conservatives in the Supreme Court. They can strike it down. If you understood that there's checks and balances in our government.
Correct.
Okay. Obamacare took several years to get through, but they had a majority of the Democrats in the House and the Senate. But they don't have that now. But see, if you don't understand the issues and you don't have a plan, you're always going to have anxiety. One of the things I learned in business, Jason, and this is where my focus is to help people make more money. They're going to raise taxes at some point. This guy, next guy, the guy after that, sometime in your lifetime, Congress is going to raise taxes. You know why? Because they're broke.
Yep.
And they keep printing money. Do I approve of it? No. But let's face the music. Someone is going to raise taxes at some point. But I tell you right now, the super wealthy aren't worried about it.
Nope. They just make more.
They make more and they put it in places that can't be taxed.
That's right.
There are so many legal ways to hide your money legally from taxes. But see, again, your financial illiteracy disallows you from having a strategy.
Yep. And let me add something to that, because I'm going to be very transparent about this. I'm not going to tell you how much, but and I don't know about but we have several different companies in my house, my world. My wife and I are in probably the top couple percent income earners in the world. And guess what? We got tax money back.
Right.
And people are like, wait a second, that's not fair. No, it's called knowing the freaking rules.
Okay, let's take that as a datum right there. If you know the rules, look, the reason why Tom Brady wins is he understands the rules and plays the game better.
That's right.
Why don't you become a Tom Brady of the game of finance? Why don't you become a Tom Brady of whatever you need to do? Let me just tell you something. There's 70 million Americans that voted for Trump. They're not going away.
Yep.
even if Team Trump loses and Team Biden becomes president, there's so many checks and balances that literally in 2022 we could elect even more senators, and Biden is basically he doesn't have to, right. He just can't. Legally, he can't move anything through. And he'll spend his next 4 years complaining about how Republicans are stopping him from real progress. He'll complain the entire time. He'll spend 4 years complaining about how he could get nothing done because the Republicans won't see his ingenious ways.
Exactly. 100%.
Okay. So now the thing is, I tell my Republican friends, and not all my friends are Republicans, by the way. I've got libertarian friends. I have friends that are independent. I have friends that don't give a shit. And I have friends that are Democrats.
I like how you said Democrats and liberals, because they are two different things.
They are. There is such thing as a blue dog Democrat. And if you don't know what that is, you should make some friends. A blue dog Democrat is a conservative Democrat. Believe it or not, there's actual Democrats here in Nevada where I live that love guns, that love business, that love low taxes.
Yeah.
And you go, how could that be? Because you've been allowing MSNBC and CNN say that there's only two types of people, Democrats and Republicans, and there's not. There's Republicans who are gay.
Shocker, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't hate everybody.
Right. Yeah. There are Muslims that are hardcore conservative Republicans. So see, what you've done is the matrix is being this polarization is a game from the New World Order on down to get us to infight and think that there's only two sides. But the fact is there's thousands of nuances to the two sides.
Yep. 100%.
And you've got to be able to make friends with at least 51% of the people if you want your way. Rand Paul knows how to reach across all sides of the aisle. Does he less Republican? No, but he knows he understands the nuances.
Yeah, and those are good points, because like Rand Paul, for example, Ron Paul was that close to becoming president, and I'll be honest with you, I believe that was stolen from him at the Republican convention, because he had the numbers. But you're right, they both ran as Republicans because they're not stupid. They know how the system works. Totally.
So the problem is that most people will spend more time on Netflix and chill than YouTube and learn or read. And I tell my friends that get all worked up about this is, number one, you probably have inadequate data. And number two, what is your plan? See, I've learned early on to focus on what I can control. I can't control the Supreme Court. I can't control Joe Biden. I can't control false votes. I can post things several times a day, as you know I do.
Yep.
Whether it's making a joke or reporting on an article about the BS. But that's not what I'm spending the majority of my time on. What I'm building is my brand. And this is my 30,000 foot view. See, I'm almost 57 years old. I'll be 57 in a couple months.
You don't look a day over 40.
Thanks. And well, you just got to stay enthusiastic about life.
That's right.
And eat good food. And I thought about it. Alex Trebek, great human being, passed away today.
Right.
He passed away at the age of 80. I think he lived a beautiful life. I think I saw interviews with him. What a dignified man.
Yep.
Just a true, well-spoken gentleman.
Right.
And he passed away at the age of 80 in a very dignified way. The world is obviously mourning him and his loss. And I thought to myself, I'm only 23 years away from that age. And if I lived to 80 and passed, it wouldn't be like, oh, Ed died at 80. What a tragedy. 80 years old is above average. I think the average male lives to about 78, 79 years old.
Yeah, I think we're like 76 to 79, somewhere in there.
Something like that, right? Okay. So let's say I live a life as well and as dignified as Alex Trebek. That means I've got 24 more rounds, 24 more Christmases with my kids. I got 24 more opportunities to take summer vacation with my friends and go motorcycle riding. I don't have, and I look back at the last 24 years and they went by pretty fast. Am I going to really spend the next 24 years of my life sitting on social media, arguing with people, worrying about who's president? Or am I going to be more concerned about the legacy that I'm going to leave behind for my kids, for the people's lives that I could impact, for the community that I could better, for the spiritual advancements that I could make? What's actually more important, Jason?
Yeah.
So I keep that in perspective. Every day I write my daily battle plan is, will today's battle plan forward my objective to leaving a legacy, the life that I really want to live? And do I want, after 24 years on my epitaph, going, he argued really well on Facebook?
It's not a good one.
He worried his way to death about who was president.
Right.
Right. So I think that's the bigger picture. And when I look at the bigger picture, I fill that big picture with knowledge, and I fill that big picture with strategy. I ask, and I've made this observation about 6 or 7 years ago. When I started to do, maybe a little bit longer, 8 years ago, I walked into a gentleman who was complaining about how people had done him in. He owned a business and he goes, oh, this marketing guy ripped me off and this consultant ripped me off. And I finally had the gumption to say, well, that's because you were ignorant enough about your business that they could do that to you. And he looked at me like, I can't believe that you just said that. I said, the problem is you sat in ignorance and they took advantage of it when you should have been burning the midnight oil, learning enough about the business to know, and about what they were doing for your business to know if they were doing the right job or not. Your ignorance is your Achilles heel. Fact.
Yep.
So the problem is that's true for all of us. That's true for me. I look at when I can't confront something, or I don't want to look at something, or I feel weak about something, I know that my confront is out, and that I need to increase my knowledge and my responsibility if I want to control something. And I'm a guy that likes to be in control. If I have a weapon, I want to control it. If I'm in my truck, I want to control it. If I'm with my family, I want to control them in a survival direction. If I'm in a business, I want to be in control. I love control. Not maniacally, but for the benefit, for the greater good. And I'm going to ask all the viewers here, do you have a written strategy for your business and for your life?
Yep. And
what is it?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, I wanted to bring something up because I want to use an example on this too, because regarding planning, what is it? Several years now, you actually left California for Nevada. I mean, I talk very often about when you're preparing what you were just talking about, and the fact that some people are saying, well, my kids are in school, I have friends, we have a house, etc. You did the ultimate thing you had to do, which was you left California because they were completely out in so many things that you did not agree with for your life and your business and everything else, and you skipped off to Nevada, was that something you obviously planned for? Obviously, you might have done it quickly, but it's a really good example of kind of walking the walk when you say you plan things.
Absolutely, I planned it. I would say that I started planning leaving California about 2 to 2.5 years. I didn't have the exact location down, but I saw the trajectory that California was going, and I'm going to tell you the exact moment that broke the camel's back. There were already factors going on in California. And when they said that my 2 young children would have to be mandatorily vaccinated to attend school, literally with my wife at the time, now ex-wife, we looked at each other and said, we're leaving. It took the moment you wanted to inject a needle forcibly in my children. And then here was the real kicker. Your religious beliefs cannot be used as an exemption. Oh, Jason,
It's a big mistake.
my religious beliefs are now canceled.
It's a human rights violation.
That violates the First Amendment. I already saw them violating the Second Amendment on an hourly basis. Now you're saying my religious beliefs have zero bearing on how I treat or raise my children. And it was like, done, done, done. And not only am I done, I'm going to wage a constitutional war upon California, and I'm going to move as many people out of your suppression as I can. So people are like, why do you complain about California? I go, they came after my children. They started the war, not me. And now, in violating my constitutional rights, I shall do all I can to free other people from having their constitutional rights violated. That's my constitutional responsibility, to speak freely for those who attack the Constitution, foreign or domestic. That's the pledge. All enemies, foreign or domestic. They are domestic and they are the enemy of the Constitution. Hence, we are at war. Now, I can't go shoot them because I'll be arrested and I want to spend the next 24 years seeing my children. But I can wage war in an ethical way, which is through my freedom of speech while I still have it. So we plan, it ended up being Nevada for a number of reasons, mainly because my parents were still alive. My father passed away last year. My mother's still alive. They were living in Southern California. They were never going to leave. So Nevada was like a 1-hour flight or a 4-hour drive. So I could still take care of them.
Right.
And because my father definitely needed my help towards the end of his life. When he passed, definitely needed my mom needed my help. And my mom's 90 years old. So at some point she lives with my brother, but I'm going to have to be there at some point. So Nevada's close. It's a tax-free state. Nevada corporations are a great place to set up businesses. I have a church here that I have members that I can congregate with. My best friend lives here. It's a great place to do business and network because up until COVID, I was seeing people at least once a month. They were going, "Hey, I'm going to be in Vegas. It's for a convention."
Yeah.
Right. So
we had many dinners on convention nights.
We've had many dinners. So for a lot of reasons, Vegas made sense. But yes, back to your point, I was planning it, and I have a plan for everything, and I literally mean everything. I plan everything. You might think it's boring to have everything planned, but I plan everything that I can control. And I think that a lot of people, when they get anxiety, I go, great. So what are you going to do about it? How are we going to put you at control? That's really the thing that a strategy is about. A strategy is really 3 things, and I'm simplifying it, but here's 3 things. Number 1, what's your overall goal? It could be financial. It could be moving to Nevada. It could be raising a family. You could have a strategy for anything. What's your goal? Number 2, what are your resources that you could use to get to that goal? Resources being people, connections, money, knowledge, platforms like social media, you know, unique connections, skills, abilities, like all these things. Then number 3, the bright idea. What's the bright idea of how to use the resources intelligently to get you to the goal? If you do those 3 things, and this is what I do with people, I'll sit down with, and I'll have them literally write down the goal, articulate it until they're happy with it, write down all their resources, and then I go, good, how are we going to use those resources? Because here's the key. And I hope everybody gets this. Most people point to things that they don't have as a reason why their life sucks.
Right.
They point to the non-resources that they don't have to get to a goal they've never set.
Yep.
But the moment you articulate a goal and you see the resources and you get bright about it, you start making steps, and the next thing you know, you're making progress. I've done this hundreds of times in coaching people. And I'm telling you, every time, if you really get them to confront it, the light bulb turns on.
I feel like they actually, I say they, we know what they're talking about. I feel like they actually helped destroy this in the education system, because what you're talking about, the principles you're talking about, whether it's preparation, goal planning, etc., we're all talking about, in America today, we're getting a very, very quick, especially right now, a very, very quick education on the Constitution. I mean, everyone's going, oh, well, he's elected, he's the president. They announced it, and everyone's going, media doesn't announce presidents. Yes, they can say that if it's an all-out win that's going on, but the actual president gets elected through Congress between December and January. And so the problem is this preparation, this planning, all of this different stuff that we're talking about, we weren't educated with it because the education system was taken over. I mean, if you had to redo the education system, how much different would we teach our kids? Would be so damn patriotic, it would blow your mind, because it's all part of this. It's creating sane human beings.
Absolutely. I mean, look, you and I know that to build a business or build a family or build a community, it's always based upon knowledge and skills.
Yep.
I mean, they even know that in prisons. If you want to rehab a prisoner, teach him a life skill that he can go out so that he can produce and feel proud.
Exactly.
I mean, every time. When did the school system, we eliminated shop and wood shop and metal shop. And I remember when I was in high school, you could take classes on how to fix a car. Yep. You could take classes on plumbing. We taught actual skills in school.
Home ec, we had to learn how to cook.
We had to learn how to cook. I had to learn how to type.
So
I learned how to build things and sew. Like, I actually learned things that I still use today. But these kids, they don't have metal shop or wood shop or home ec. They're not reading the Constitution. They're reading generations, or we can take responsibility for them and use social platforms like we're doing right now to begin the education process. Because the young people are going to come to the hardcore reality that if they don't have skills, they're not going to make it in life. I mean, you can't avoid the laws of life. So they go, why isn't my family doing well? Why am I still living in the basement? Why can't I make enough money? And you start to point out to them, because you're financially illiterate, because you have no actual skill sets. You have a 4-year degree with $130,000 debt with a certificate that no one considers valuable. That's why you're working at Starbucks for $15 an hour. Because I literally had, and this is a true story, I went to a coffee place, girl, cute as a button, bubbly, and she's like, we got to talking after a few months, and she's like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to graduate school and get my MBA. And I'm like, you've already gone to college? She goes, yeah, I have a 4-year degree.
Wow.
And I said, why are you working at a coffee place? Because she goes, well, I studied Middle Eastern Jewish studies.
I'm sorry.
True story. She's Jewish. Beautiful. Great.
That's fine.
Okay. You
It's
study.
not the theory. It's the account.
So I said, well, what do you do with I go, that's beautiful. You're Jewish. Awesome. More power to you. You're not $130,000 in debt. What do you do with a study in Middle Eastern Jewish history? She goes, you get a degree as a master to be a teacher so that you can teach Middle Eastern Jewish studies in college. See, it's a multi-level marketing system. They sign you up for this thing so you can sign up the next generation, so they can sign up the next generation to sign up the next generation to keep you in the school system and a perpetual generation after generation after generation in debt with no skills other than to sell somebody the thing that you just bought.
It's the prerequisite program. So for her to want to teach something that technically, if she just looked up like, her heritage, she would figure out what the hell was happening. You have to get an MBA to teach, but you can't just get an MBA because that's a higher degree of learning. You have to go get a 4-year university degree for $130,000 before you can get that other $50,000, whatever. That's insane.
Right. But here's the thing. In Las Vegas, if you are a hardworking air conditioning tech for $20,000 education, you can make $120,000 a year.
Yep.
So the air conditioning tech who only spent 20 grand to get educated, does an apprenticeship, makes 5 times more than the Starbucks girl with $130,000 debt. And Eric, if you're a plumber, but somehow we've demeaned, oh, you're just a plumber. Hey, plumbers and air conditioning tech, they put food on the table. They raise families. They go buy a boat and take their kids to Lake Mead and go fishing. Like, they raise a family.
Yep.
They put their kids through college. They buy a home. Like, it's a respectable job that's in demand. So again, the educational system has not only subverted what we want to do for work, it's subverted everything. So I say, okay, good. I'm going to take responsibility, and like you are on social media, and I'll educate people. It's a purpose that we have.
Yep.
So instead of watching the news, why don't they listen to content creators like you, or Grant Cardone, or Gary Vaynerchuk, or Neil Patel, or, depending on your interest, start absorbing the knowledge, because knowledge is a resource. Back to the strategy, you're increasing your resources to help you get you to your goal. You start to come up with bright ideas. I mean, Jason, do you know how many college degrees I have?
I don't know that, actually.
I have none.
0.
I have 0 college degrees. I am a junior college dropout. I went to junior college for 2 years, Orange Coast College in Costa Mesa, California, and I was studying to be a photographer, and actually passed my written pilot's test. And I was either going to be a pilot or I was going to be a photographer, but I was on drugs all the time, so I didn't really quite know what I was going to do. And I just dropped out of college and I started working. So I wasn't encumbered by debt, and then I just became really, really smart, and I started reading tons of books. And now with the advent of YouTube and podcasts, I do books, and I, like you, got a bunch of books behind you, right?
This is just 3 bookshelves. There's more in the house.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way. Like, there's a bookshelf over there, then there's books over there, then there's books by my bed, there's books in my truck. Like, I'm reading, podcasting. I rarely listen to music. I'm listening to podcasts while I'm driving. My car is a university.
We're looking for potentially a house at some point because we way outsized this one. And this is the craziest thing. If you asked me when I was 20, what I would be looking for in a house, I would go, okay, I want like a big living room with a gigantic TV on the wall, or I want and I'm looking at these big houses and like they have these freaking like movie theaters inside of them. And I don't show me that. What does the office look like? What does the library look like? How much wall space is there? Because
Totally.
I want book space. That's what I want. I literally, For me, I would rather be sitting in a library or on my back porch or on a lake or whatever it is, reading a book, relaxing and studying versus sitting in front of a television.
That's right. So I want to see now. There's an interesting thing here. You like studying books. I like studying books. You like learning. I like learning, and we're both calm.
Shocking.
So is it? So let's just take a look at this. Is the study of knowledge have a calming effect? Does it have an empowering effect upon the lives of people? You can go and research quotes from the greatest minds: Socrates, Aristotle, Voltaire, Thomas Jefferson. The greatest minds in the world were ardent, hardcore students of wisdom.
Right.
And see, we've gotten to the point now where we just want everything. We want this constant electronic stimulus to get us angry or upset or satisfied or yeah or yeah, go Trump or Biden. And I'm not saying anything negative about either one. I'm just saying, why are we dictating someone else controlling our emotions? Can you imagine being in a marriage and you're always blaming your wife for your emotions?
Hell.
And then your wife is always blaming you for that's a marriage that's going to fail. A life that's going to fail is when you're blaming other things or you're waiting for someone else to fix your shit.
Yep.
So look, Jason, we both come from the same school of thought. Even before we met, we were both on a similar ethos, a similar philosophical path, and an understanding, probably even at a very young age. Probably when you were 10 or 12, it started to dawn on you that you were different.
Oh, yeah, I had that thought when I was very young.
You were probably interested in things and talking about things that the other kids weren't interested in talking about, right?
That and the adults couldn't answer the questions that I asked.
Amen. I was the same way. My father said to me when I was about 14, he called me Eddie. Eddie, you should be a lawyer. You argue about everything. You ask so many questions. Like he literally was, my dad goes, you need to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
You're built to be a lawyer because you argue everything. You don't agree with anybody on anything. You are completely set on and you ask all these friggin' intelligent questions that I don't know how to answer. And I was reading books about Bigfoot and UFOs and Loch Ness Monster and everybody thought I was weird.
Yep.
See, I looked at life and I went, something don't add up.
Yep.
Things just don't add up on this planet. And the answers, and I told my father, the answers are not in the universities. I said that at 14 years old. Those are not where the answers are. And I'm going to go find the answers.
100%.
So, yeah. So if you've got a curious mind, why don't you become curious about your strategy? Why don't you become curious about getting your life in control? Why don't you become curious about where the knowledge is to get yourself to become empowered about money, about business, about finance, about social media, about the government, about the Constitution, about your rights? Because if you don't know them, you're going to lose them. So, what I started doing? This is how I felt in control. What if, because I asked the question a month ago, what if Trump loses? Again, I'm not Team Biden.
He is not Team Biden. I can assure you.
At all. So please do not take this as I'm just saying, I'm just contingency plan.
No, it's called objective reasoning. This is actually what physicians do all the time. We have to right. I can talk about conspiracies all day and I love them because they're kind of my entertainment as well. And I do think a lot of it's true. But at the end of the day, I still this is the whole JFK Jr. thing. I'm like, I need objective. Like if you throw that at me, I need some sort of objective finding to understand that because that's a little bit outside of my reality. That doesn't make sense to me. Same thing here.
What if? Let's say it could happen. So why not have a contingency plan? if I was Eisenhower landing at Normandy Beach and I said, well, what if we lose all our men at the beach? Nobody would think I was negative. They would just go, that's a great question. We should have a plan for that.
Yep.
That's
this is what companies and households are supposed to do. What happens if something goes south?
It's called an emergency fund. Does that mean I want an emergency?
Nope. It just means you're ready for it.
Right. I have a tornado backpack, and I'm sure everybody in Florida's got a plan to evacuate if there's a tornado, or not a tornado, a hurricane. Do we want a hurricane? We don't want a hurricane. No one wants a hurricane, but we understand that there's a possibility.
Dude, I have 2 generators. Like, there's no hurricane, but guess what? They're sitting there. I still have tanks of gas out there waiting, ready to go. I spent money on that stuff.
Right. You spend it because preparation is rational.
Correct.
So I was thinking, okay, well, Trump ain't going to go anywhere. He could put on these events once a month at a state, and I sort of got 80,000. It'd be like a Rolling Stones concert.
Yeah, it will.
Right? I mean, they could sell swag, and he could raise money for whatever candidate. And I suggested he become the president of the NRA, the largest militia, legal militia in the world. He could swell their numbers, raise all the money, and hire so many lawyers that it would spin Biden's head.
It was such a genius thought, by the way. That the NRA thing, when you texted me that the other day, I'm like, you son of a, that's so brilliant.
Right. He create voters. He keeps in the press. It would piss Biden off because he was in the press. Can you imagine if Trump was the president of the NRA? How much money? Like, it would be the ultimate checkmate.
They wouldn't even hold on. More than 50% of the country at that point wouldn't even recognize the real president of the United States in Biden.
Because you know who's really the president? The guy who gets the most attention.
That's right.
And Trump could just outperform him, out-stadium him, out-event him, out-PR him, out-news him, because the news hates him so much, they can't help but stop talking about him.
I kind of like this plan better, honestly.
But think about it. Now he's free to do whatever he wants. I'm telling you, the Trump brand, the Trump kids are going to be the next Kennedys. They are. Of our generation. The Trump kids, you're going to see them in politics for the next 20 or 30 years, just like we did the Kennedys.
They just created, you know what's interesting about this? You have the libertarian movement, and the libertarian people are very different than the party. I can assure you that, because I've studied that a little bit. Very different. The Libertarian Party is not what everyone thinks it is. But also you had the Tea Party, and that rose, but then it fell. Like, all these parties have somewhat, like, I guess you'd say, petered out or burned out. Do you want to? I mean, I know you understand this from a branding standpoint. He just created the biggest political party that is not Republican. It is not Democrat. It is essentially Patriot, and it's not going away.
That's right. So right now he's got 70 million people who gave him their vote. Imagine if he says, hey, I've got a tour, and I'm going to be in these 25 cities over the next year. I'm the president of the NRA, and he gets 80,000 people, and he says, in this state, we got to get rid of this senator because I need the senators to block Joe Biden. And I need everybody to donate $100, become a member of the NRA, because we're going to put in a giant legal fund, and we're going to hire 500 of the best lawyers, and we're going to cock block Joe Biden at every passway.
Dude, that's a better plan.
It's a legal nightmare. It's a legal, like, Napoleon once said, give me 50 lawyers and I'll prove anything. So all we got to do is, he could go out and take that brand. And I literally, like, whoever went to these rallies in the last 6 months, they'll keep going to them. It will literally turn into like a Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead would tour, and people would just travel with the Grateful Dead, and they put 30,000 people, and it became like a whole day event. I mean, it was just, they brought the family, they brought the friends. and it was like, and they were buying deadhead paraphernalia. It would be like that.
Oh, 100%. And let me add a layer to this, even though it's not directly connected. I think it is. And you're the branding expert. I love brands, but you are a branding expert. There was in the last 2 days this gigantic shift to the point where when I turned my phone on today, I was trying to play with Parler all day, and the damn thing won't work because there's such a migration flipping over, and that is a Trump Bongino movement over like this isn't just like this is the political movement. Like people like Parler has become the patriot like social media site, and everything you're saying, like whether it's the Trump kids and Trump himself or the brand or the patriots, Facebook we know is essentially socialism, communism, so is Twitter. You're watching the movement of America and a whole gigantic change.
Right. Okay. So now let's take another angle on this. We were going to talk about this another time, but we're on it now.
Yeah.
So, okay. Do we have a calculator? What's 70 million people times $100?
Okay. Hold on. You don't want to know this because it's not going to hold. So we're at, is that 700 million?
No, 70 million times $100.
Oh, 70 million.
Would that be 7 billion?
Yeah, 7 to the 9th power. 7 times 10 to the 9th power.
I think that's 7. That's 7 billion. If anybody can comment.
I think it is.
Okay. What could the NRA do with $7 billion? Billion.
That's more money than Trump's worth.
That's right. In fact, it would be so much money and so many members and so many voters for the Second Amendment, it would be actually impossible to pass any Second Amendment at all. It would just be, they'd go into complete apathy. Not only that, they go, and then he goes, well, I'm going to start a real estate company and I'm selling shares, and you can buy one share for $100. Another 7 billion. Who would want to go to business with Trump? Even the liberals would go into business with Trump.
If he offered like any time to go into his property, whatever you want to call it, a credentialed, however it works.
It is 7 billion.
I would put money in right away.
Okay, good. So now he could earn another $7 billion in a hedge fund to go buy real estate, raise $7 billion for the NRA to completely block Kamala and Biden on stopping the Second Amendment. And that's only, and I guarantee you, most of these Trump people paid $100 in Trump flags, Trump shirts, Trump hats, Trump cups. When I see these Trump people drive by with their flags, I think they spent like $1,000 on swag.
Yes, they did.
So to spend $100 to put it to invest in a and then they say, okay, now we need another $100 to finish the wall on one of these crowd raising sites. The fact of the matter is Trump has all the power regardless of the office. The power is in the brand and the ability to sway and motivate an audience, and that he will never lose.
True.
That's where the power. It's right here, man. We the people.
Still my favorite tattoo.
That's where the power is, my friend. In the brand, you own the audience, you own their emotions, you own their story, you can move them. And he could do that in any direction. He doesn't need the office. He proved to the swamp that I could take the office when I wanted, and he did it. Regardless of his office, he is an epic brand from this point forward. He's going down in history as a non-politician who became president of the United States. No one will ever be able to take that from him. Taking the audience, the love, the fanaticism. You can't take that away.
I think a lot of people don't understand, and you and I have both spoke professionally. And this is not to put anybody down. This is just understanding from experience. I don't think a lot of people out there understand the energy that is received at a physical and a spiritual level when you stand on stage and people are cheering you on. And I'm not talking about from an egotistical standpoint, the admiration of something you accomplish or are doing. Like, I don't think people fully understand that. And that's what he's getting right now. And I'm telling you, if you're an evil person, it's hard. Like, he's up there freaking dancing, man. Like, he's dancing after a thing. He's literally having fun and to flow that kind of admiration and appreciation to someone. When you're on stage, you get a standing ovation. There's not anything like it.
Right. I mean, let's take a historical precedent. Gandhi, little dude, 4'11", beat the British Empire with nonviolence because he won the audience with a superior message. And the army left. See, here's the thing. When you understand we the people, and you understand how to leverage your power as a brand, you can defeat evil forces. So if you don't abandon your guy and you just stay as enthusiastic and you go, okay, the power isn't necessarily the office. The power is in the brand. The power is in the story that I share with the brand. The power is in the community coming to support it and to support each other, to support the message and support each other. If they maintain that level of enthusiasm, we could change the country from the brand.
That's right.
With or without the office. But see, I'm calm about it because I have a strategy that I'm confident in. I forwarded it to him. I tagged him on Instagram. I tagged him on Twitter. I even wrote to the White House my idea.
Nice.
So, what the hell?
100%. And I'm going to drop this little knowledge bomb. You are going to be seeing Edwin back here quite a bit going forward, especially into the new year, but it'll happen before that, because one of the things I wanted to do with this network was, because it is a network at this point, it's a network of growing people who are patriots. And don't worry about the trolls out there, guys. I see some of you guys commenting on troll. You need trolls for a movement. It's part of the game. Welcome to the game. But one of the things that makes you out there proactive, cause over things, is the fact that you put yourself in a situation where you can be better. And honestly, I don't know that any better, and Edwin doesn't know that any better that I can think of. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but becoming an entrepreneur, becoming an owner, earning it, whether it starts off as you just selling a piece of art or some crocheting or whatever it is, or it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, doesn't matter. Putting yourself in that situation. And one of the things I wanted to do was not just talk about everything in the chaos going on, is we need to give people knowledge. We need to give people access to information. And Edwin and I have known each other long enough. We're on the same page this way. Is entrepreneurs will always run the show. We will always, because we're the ones that create the future.
Amen. And it's another thing I realized. Entrepreneurs always think and move faster than politicians.
Oh, so much faster.
So much faster. So, I mean, by the time the politicians get a bill through, which takes 6 months, businesses have already worked out how to escape it.
Yep.
Right. So if we can get, and Trump's an entrepreneur. So I'm just saying, you got to keep the faith with the brand. The office is not the power. The power is we the people and the community. Presidents come and go.
Yep.
The Constitution has been around for 230 years.
It is pretty damn strong.
Right? The idea that we the people, this concept of we the people, has been around for 230 years, that we have an inalienable right to the pursuit of happiness. But we got to pursue it, and we got to surround ourselves with people that have exactly the similar pursuits. That's what I saw at the Trump rallies. Everybody was on a single goal, man. If you guys can keep that, maybe the goal's a little different. Maybe not. If he, like I said, if he doesn't win, maybe it's a little bit different goal. Maybe it's to stop Biden or to stop unconstitutional laws about Biden. Look, if Biden voted for something constitutional, I'll support him.
Yeah.
I support the document, not the individual. If the individual supports the document, then I support the individual. So I'm not anti-Biden. I'm just anti anything unconstitutional.
Right.
Let's be clear about that. I don't want my president to lose. It's kind of hoping that the captain on your flight crashes the plane.
Right. Well, that was the thing when Obama was in charge. There was not a conservative out there. We may have not liked him, but I don't want my freaking country to tank because the president's in charge.
Yeah, of course. I'm always hoping that he makes the best decision.
Right.
I'm always going to support him to make the best decision because it's my country at stake. But I will call out anyone, and I've even called out Trump a couple times when he said things that were a little,
so have I.
Yeah, not often, but there was a couple times he said things that I wasn't in agreement with it. So why? Because it was unconstitutional. But my point is this, is that why don't you just stick together as a community, continue to support the goals, understand your resources, and let's just move forward with things that we can cause, with things that we can create, with ideas that we can put forward. I'm going to tell you one last thing, and then if you want to end, I get it. I was very, very upset in the summer about this defund the police.
Oh, yeah.
While the riots were raging, in June, May, June, July. And I got really just like, wow. So I went online and I said, how does one become a volunteer for the police department? And
I love this story.
So I live in the city of Henderson, which is right next to Las Vegas. I always tell people I live in Las Vegas because I'm only 7 miles from the Strip. But technically I'm in Henderson. Second largest city in the city of Nevada, and one of the cities that Trump visited a few months ago. He actually came to Henderson, my city. So I was like, you know what? I'm tired of the police bashing. There's a coffee shop I go to all the time. The cops come in. I open carry. The cops don't care here in Nevada. Very friendly terms. I said, you know what? And I saw, and when the whole thing was going down, I saw people walking up to the cops going, hey, we love you. We support you. You know what I mean? I saw the community come together. So I called up Henderson. I said, is there a way to volunteer? They go, absolutely. So I got on and I got interviewed. It was a phone interview first, and I had to fill out a form, and they did a background check on me. I hadn't heard from him for 3 months, and I thought, I guess something, came up. A traffic ticket,
Right.
I don't have any felonies, but you know what I mean? I don't know. They could have found something, Lady called me up about 2 weeks ago, and she goes, oh, Edwin, so we finally got your background check. So I'm going to need to do one more interview, and then I need you to get fingerprinted. So here's what it is. And I love this idea that I come up with. And it's not just because it's my idea. I thought, well, I can go to the jail and volunteer and go get donuts for the cops or fill out paperwork. I mean, there's all these different types of admin stuff. But I'm in social media and branding. I said, we've got a problem. The police department doesn't know how to tell their story through social media. I'm a storyteller. I'm a brander. What if I help you build the police brand and we tell better stories of all the great things? She's like, oh my God. She goes, that's a brilliant idea. We don't know how to use social media to tell people the good things that we're doing. Listen to this, Jason. She got so excited. She rushed me. Just did my fingerprints. I did my initial interview. If everything comes back, I'm in, and I'm going to help them run their branding and social media campaign for the police department. And I told her that I want to make this the model that I can then export to all the police departments.
Dude, you might have just changed the nation.
To actually, how do we tell the good things about the police department because they are doing good things, but they're not documented. They're not telling the story. So all we ever hear is the negative. And I want to change the narrative of how we perceive police officers.
That's like so good. That is really amazing. That like I'm not just saying it because people are saying that. That's a damn good idea. Like that. So let me explain to you what's going to happen here. Because Edwin does not play small stuff. So Edwin is going to do this in his local area, and then you're going to see this spread, and you will probably see Edwin at a national or federal level at some point, showing what he just did with the local police department, because that is so ridiculously good. I'm lost for words on that. That's a branding genius right there. And you know it is. You just and you know it. But Edwin is a humble guy, and I will tell you, Edwin and I say like lots of things. We swear a lot. We drink our coffee, and we might smoke a cigar. He drives a motorcycle. He has a truck, but at heart, he is the most humble, chill, caring guy in the world, and he knows damn well this is going to take off.
Yeah, I really wanted to, and I'll tell you why I wanted to. I come from, my last name's Dearborn. My great uncle fought with George Washington at a number of campaigns, including Bunker Hill. He saw the surrender of Cornwallis. Then he served as Thomas Jefferson's Secretary of War for both terms. There were over 300 Dearborns in the Civil War. 90% fought for the North. My great-grandfather was in World War I. My grandfather was in World War II. My father was in Korea and Vietnam. And since day one of this nation, Dearborns have been fighting for freedom. I did not join the military because I had joined the ministry at a young age. And that was my way of fighting, if you will, fighting for the spiritual salvation of man, getting people off drugs. That was my way of fighting for the nation. But, now that I don't do that anymore, I thought, well, okay, you know what? I've got to somehow support the people that support me. Because if I call a cop, they're here, no questions asked. They don't care if I'm Democrat, Republican, gay, straight. They don't ask those questions. They show up fully here for me. So to volunteer 10 hours a month for someone, you know what I mean? It just was, it's in my DNA to do this. And then to be able to export that, that's what I mean by legacy. Remember, I want to take my 24 years and leave a legacy. That's a legacy project.
Huge.
That's Absolutely. What I'm thinking about my life. That's the strategy. Legacy projects.
Nice. That's America. That is the I said last week that we need to pick our testicles and ovaries up off the ground, and we need to remember the legacy that we were born into this country. There is a reason this country is attacked as much as it is, because we have founders and we have divine natural law that created the documents that we live on. And there's a reason why they attack that. And right now, Americans have grown weak, partially because of our own responsibility, partially because we have a bunch of assholes in charge. And we need to remember where we come from. And what you're doing, what we're doing, what all our friends are doing out there, that is how you get this accomplished.
That's right. And the big thing, Jason, this thing with Biden and Trump, it's a small speed bump. Look at all the things we've had to overcome as a nation. Civil War, plagues, World War II and Hitler, World War I, the 60s and Vietnam. We have overcome greater challenges. I am not worried about this.
Yep. I 100% agree. And it's interesting. I got to share this one last thing before we head out, is regarding legacy and where you come from. One of my associates at the practice is Venezuelan, and her family is here. They came here as the shit hit the fan in Venezuela, and they're very happy to be here. And then today, our dryer broke down a week ago, and it just wouldn't turn on. And it's not super old, and it's made in the USA. It's a Whirlpool. And I said, we try to keep our economics local as much as possible. And so I said, well, let's call somebody out to come fix it, because it's fast. And if I do it, I could do it, but it's gonna take longer unless I have a bunch of stuff I gotta get done. My wife's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And today, the gentleman showed up, and he's super young, and he goes in there, checks, very, very polite, very nice. Come to find out, he's Venezuelan, and he's about 23 years old. And he obviously he didn't bring up politics because that's not his job. But I think he saw like a shirt I was wearing or something like that. It was very pro-America, and he really quickly asked what just what I thought, And
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, it's a fraudulent election. He's like, oh, I agree. And I said, and he goes, and he literally said, Americans have no idea what socialism really is, and there's a reason why he is here. And he's not here sitting on a couch eating Doritos, living off welfare. He actually has a trade. He has a skill. He's working and repairing electronics and appliances. And I said, well, what do you do? What do you do? And he goes, well, I do this, but then on the side, I'm also a welder. 23 years old. I'm also a welder, and I'm like building a business with a partner to do welding as well. So he's doing 2 jobs. And let me tell you, it took him 30 minutes to fix that damn thing with a part that cost like $150. And he was out of here. He was in and out in a half an hour, super polite. And remember, we talked about those people with those $200,000 college degrees who can't get a job. Yet this guy can fix a dryer in 30 minutes and probably made what, $20+ an hour, $30+ an hour, whatever they make. Like, he's 23 years old, and he is immigrated here legally, and he is smarter than the majority of our Americans.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I find that immigrants take this freedom seriously.
Yes.
Because they've seen the dichotomy. It's like if you've been starving for the first 20 years of your life and you get a job and you start eating good food and you see these people praying at their meal. I mean, there's a reason why we're thankful for this meal, like, oh, well, it's just a meal. You're like, no. I did 20 years of hard time starving in Venezuela. Yep. This meal, we're praying.
Absolutely. 100%. Man, you're going to be back on the show a lot. We're going to talk business. We're going to talk freedom, lots of good stuff as it comes. You also have your own show. Can you tell everyone where to find you, what the show is about, social media, what you and your brand, your branding? Give us the lowdown.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do, I have a number of ventures that I'm a partner in. We'll go into all of them, but I offer marketing services, social media marketing services as a virtual chief marketing officer, meaning I just don't deliver a website or a social media. I develop a strategy, as we talked about, to build your brand for the long term. It takes years to build a brand. Anybody who tells you otherwise is a ripoff artist.
Yep.
Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, Trump. It took years to build the brand that they are today.
With a few failures in between.
With a few failures. So I help people build long-term brands, not just I don't do quick rich. I don't do, any of that stuff. So you can go to virtual CMO, which stands for Chief Marketing Officer, .expert. That's my website. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram. LinkedIn is probably my most, other than Facebook and YouTube. You go to my YouTube channel, look me up, Edwin Dearborn. Follow me on YouTube and LinkedIn. Those are the 2 platforms I'm very active on. I'm going to start doing daily shows. I'm trying to interviewing experts on business. I've already done 6 interviews, launched this brand 2 weeks ago. I've already got 25 more guys lined up in the next 2 months. Some are New York Times bestselling authors. I've got David Meerman Scott scheduled in December. He's written a number of books. I got some real top end guys coming on my show. You can also find the podcast Growth Driven. So if you're looking to build there we go. There's some of the guys I've interviewed. So anyways, if you guys are on YouTube, follow me on YouTube, check out some of my videos. And I'm on Twitter. There I am right there. But I like working with big brands, typically work with brands that are doing over a couple $1 million in sales annually, although I do work with some smaller businesses. I'm also a board member on a couple companies that I do the marketing for. And there you go. That's what I am.
Nice. We must have been rock stars tonight. Not only were people asking tons of questions, but you got some trolls out there too, which is always. Hey, do you need haters, Edwin? Do haters count in the growth?
I think the best hate that I got was he born from a deer?
I saw that one.
So you know what I would say? Yes, I was, and you were born from an ass.
I love it. See, this is what happens when you just talk to logical people. They don't shut down. They don't back into a corner and say, I'm sorry. They don't go all snowflake. They actually punch back harder.
Yeah.
Edwin, I love it, man. Keep up the good work. You are always awesome. And just so you know, Edwin and I message each other behind the scenes all the time. So I will probably be chatting with him by tomorrow or the next day at the latest usually. And he's got his 1776 shirt on. And he also has I like the motorcycle helmet over your right shoulder.
Yeah, that's from the movie. What was it? Jesus.
Now he has to know.
Rider. That was from Easy. And I got the other motorcycle. If I could show you my whole office, I got motorcycle helmets and motorcycle photos, and I got all this kind of rock and roll and motorcycle stuff all over my office. So
it's almost like you're an American.
Kinda, yeah. So and I love motorcycles, as you know, and I love guns. And
he doesn't like golf though. He's not a golfer. He loves golf sucks. Edwin prefers shooting guns and riding motorcycles.
Yeah.
And he's got a pretty new truck now, like me.
Yeah, got a new truck.
I like it. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your time tonight.
And Jason, thank you, man. You bringing me all these people. And
yes, go follow Edwin if you want a dose of reality.
Yeah. May not be your reality, but I'll give you a dose of it.
This is Dr. Jason Dean. This is Edwin Dearborn, Revolution Network. You guys have an amazing evening. I will see you again tomorrow. Be well.